we are getting ready now to jump into this very interactive session. So today is not a presentation, it's going to be a conversation. And again, as I mentioned, we are going to pick up from the phenomenal presentation Nancy kicked off our Innovation Month with on March 3rd. And I will drop the link if you missed that to go back and watch the video, because it's really great. Also, if you're in the Growth Shift membership, this is the exercise that we had this week. So you guys are in luck. You've got the tips sheet and all the things that were part of that you may want to jump over and pull down, because we're going to show you exactly how to work that exercise. And if you want more about them for the membership, let us know. So Nancy, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Right. And let's remind everybody that if you are WBEC certified WBE, the membership is free to you. So all you have to do is go onto the Growth Shift website, and Steph will put a link there, please. In the chat, you go to the Growth Shift website, you scroll down to where it says already certified or WBE, and then just follow the directions from there. Okay, so this is a great added benefit for being certified. So the Innovators DNA was the book that I used, and I highly recommend I based the presentation that I made on this book called The Innovators DNA, and it's by Jeff Dyer, Hal Gregenson, and Clayton Christensen. And it's a pretty quick and easy read. It's available on Audible as well, so no excuses as to why you wouldn't read this book or listen to this book. But in it, the authors profile innovators and disruptors, and they posit that there are some people that are just born innovators and disruptors, but the good news is we can all learn some basic skills. And so there are 5 skills, and our characteristics, and I'll read those. And then our intention today is that we're going to go around the window, and each of our regional directors is going to talk a little bit about how she sees that skill in her life, in her business, and in with some of the business owners that she deals with. So we're not being interactive with you because we're on screen and you're in the chat, but you can be interactive with us through the chat. So if you have questions, or if you have comments or ideas, please go ahead and put those in the chat. So to start off, the 5 characteristics are curiosity, association, observation, connecting, and experimenting. And the good news is that these are simple to learn. If you're not naturally curious, we're going to offer you some ideas on how to, promote that characteristic. I'm going to start off by talking about association. And that's where you find ways to see patterns and how things can be tweaked to look and feel different. So in the book, they give the example of the iPhone and how the iPhone came to be, because the idea behind the iPhone was something that would look sleek, something that would be easy to use, and something that would have, a nice design to it, a nice design element. And that's because he had taken some calligraphy classes. While he was in college, he'd taken some calligraphy classes and liked the idea of the fluidity of the art of calligraphy. And as the iPhone was being designed, he kept going back to his team to say, it doesn't flow enough, right? And if you'll all will remember back, the iPhone was really revolutionary because everybody had been using BlackBerries that had a keyboard. Remember, it had a keyboard, and you just kept punching into the keys, right? And so he said, no, we don't need a keyboard. And his designers kind of fought him on that, and he kept saying, go back, and let's just look at how we can take what we want to do and make the design more fluid, more flexible, more innovative. So things that you can do in the idea of association is to like look at your target market, right? So recently I worked with a WBE who has a very specific target market. And we helped her to see how the products that she creates for her target market might be of use in other areas. And that she said was very helpful to her. So that's one thing you can do, is to just revisit your target market and consider ancillary services or products. An easy way, again, with the theme of association, is to just ask your clients. Ask your clients what it is they like about your product or service. And is there anything that they would like to see a little bit differently? They will be very flattered, will be very honest with you. And on the business side, it's a lot less expensive to keep a client than to go after new clients, right? And so if you, as you create associations, think kind of, what it is I'm doing now, how can I improve on what I'm doing, and how can I go one step beyond my current target market and look at possibly their target market. So in the in the workshop, I had talked about Susanna Robledo, who owns Cube Care, and how she created these curtains that originally they were logoed with the hospital's logo on both sides of the curtains. And she took it one step further by looking at this concept of association. So who actually sees these curtains? It's the patients who see the curtains, right? So it's a good idea that they be logoed, but it's also a good idea that they have some kind of design that soothes and calms and reassures the patients, right? So that's how she came up with the different designs that she has for her curtains. All right, so that's the idea of association. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll answer those for you. Okay, so who's going to talk about curiosity?
Steph? Yep, that was me. Sorry, trying to get off mute. If it's okay, Nancy, I'm going to just show everybody real quick. And again, if you're in the membership, you can get this, but we will show you real quick what we're kind of talking to. There is a sheet here that we're going through all of these things, and it kind of shows the trait, what it means, and how you can use it, which is what Nancy has us all doing today. So again, if you are in the membership or want to get in, you can jump down. There's this, and then there's also one that you can fill out yourself. So there's this one, and then there's a blank one. So yes, I am going to talk a little bit about curiosity. And one of the ways that I loved when Nancy did this presentation, and when she talks, is about, really getting back to your inner child and remembering about one of the things that we all did and drove our parents nuts. Do you guys remember how one of the things? Well, there would have been many. Asking 10 million questions, right? Like, what does a child do constantly? Why? What is this? Why? What is that? So constantly asking questions. And that is one of the top things to get into your curiosity. And anybody who works with me knows I am always asking lots and lots of questions. My biggest thing is, how does that work? Well, what does that do? So I am the one behind there all the time. Nancy knows anytime she gets on something with me and somebody shows us a new skill set, she sits back because she waits. She knows I'm going to go, well, can I find out how you did that? So how I really go about, again, so curiosity is asking the questions. And I actually, in my coaching business with my clients, I go through the main questions that we all deal with as business owners, right? Number one is knowing your why. Number two is, what is it that your business is going to offer? Number three is, who is it for? And then the last one is, how are you going to do it? Right? So those are the questions that we all do when we start our businesses. And I always say we have to continue to do that, right? It's not something that you sit on. You've got to go back and revisit that. And at least a few times a year, sort of part of Nancy with the vision boarding. And we do that more than once a year. So these aren't things that you just decide once. I mean, look at COVID, right? I mean, we all had to kind of go back to the drawing board and redo that. So it's all about questioning. So how do I get in touch with that? Well, there's a few things, because again, to me, it's all about kind of getting back. We have so much clutter in our minds from being adults. It just happens, guys. You know, adulting kind of takes away some of those things that we had as children. And I'm very, very lucky that I have a little 6-year-old that keeps me very much in touch with my youthful side. But even before I had her, there were a few things I do. One of the simplest things you can do, and you may laugh about this, is go out in your backyard and take your shoes off and walk around in the grass. Now, there's a couple of things that this does for you. Number one, it's a grounding exercise. And any of you know about that, and knows how important it is for your actual soles of your feet to touch the earth. It is so important from an energy standpoint to do that. But the other thing that it does, and I don't know about you guys, but it takes me back to childhood. It takes me right back there, because as adults, right, the first thing we always do is put our shoes on before we go outside, because we know better. Kids don't know better, right? They run out without their shoes on. So that is one of the quickest things. And it's so funny when I just go out in my backyard. Now, I don't walk in the street or anything crazy, but I still just go out in my backyard and I do that, and I look up, and it's just so funny how that sensual moment, that texture of the grass, gets you into this different mindset. And you look at the clouds and you smell things. And so I close my eyes and I really get in touch with my senses. So that's one of the things I do to really enable my curiosity and to get back in touch with that part of me, the simple part of just asking why, what, how. Another thing that I do is figuring out that other thing that you really just love to do for yourself. My newest thing is running. I love going out, running, walking, and I even went out today, which I normally don't do on a Wednesday, but I knew I needed it. Something just tell me I needed to get out there and get in touch with that moment. So I encourage you to just take that time, even if it's only 10, 15 minutes, find something that you love. If it's writing, write it. If it's cooking, cook. If it's gardening, garden, whatever it is, painting, paint. Do it, even if it's just for 15 minutes. You can find 15 minutes. Trust me. Nancy told a story once, and I now do it now about, I think it was a client, Nancy, who set her alarm, and how bad do you want this? So I actually get up at late as 6. I try to get up at 5:30 now, because it's quiet and I can get that time in. So, so those are 2 ways that I get in touch with my curiosity.
Beautiful, beautiful. Someone has said, does jigsaw puzzles count, or do jigsaw puzzles count? Absolutely. I am a big puzzle solver, puzzle maker. I don't know what to call that when you, and I've got one right now that is very, very challenging. It's a group of succulents. It's 500 pieces. And I think I've been working on this for 2 weeks now. But yes, actually doing puzzles wires different areas of your brain. So it's really, really good to do, because you're doing spatial as well as color recognition and all of that. So good. So let's talk about observation now as another trait.
Okay, so I like to share regarding observation. And this links directly with what Steph was talking about, is to get into the habit of asking 10 or 20 questions every day, and start a daily journal for yourself on what you observe, ideas. And what I do is, I definitely think it's important for you to tap into your industry's organizations, what is trending, go to different sites, check out your competition, and then just make sure that that you yourself are asking those questions as to what is happening, what is the latest, what else can I do maybe differently to differentiate yourself. And that helps to make you more innovative in whatever it is that you're doing for your company. It could be in figuring out, a direction as to maybe you want to update some product. Maybe it has to do with the service industry, the way that now, due to COVID and going out of COVID, how we're facing out of COVID, how does that look? what changes you need to apply to your business. So definitely, I think it's important to join organizations that pertain to your industry to stay on top of those things. Secondly, also, I think it's important for you to take advantage of the different executive programs that are available out there, like the Jim Moran Institute program. There's also the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business executive programs. And it's a great way for you to elevate your knowledge about how to run your business, and also to make connections and develop a wider network of people that you can and then, tap into to continue that evolvement of yourself and of your business as well. So observation and taking action on those observations, do it on a daily basis. Set aside the time. And like Steph was saying, you dedicate 15 minutes to this, then put yourself your schedule and say, okay, on this schedule, I'm going to dedicate myself at least 30 minutes a day that I want to go ahead and take the time to really observe what's happening in the industry. I want to take the moment to research this specific company and make those notes and ask those same questions. You can be consistent in asking the same questions pertaining to each different company that you're researching. And I think that's a great way for you to be able to grow your company. So that's what I feel that it's important to do as part of, evolving as an innovator. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carmen. And I mentioned Cube Care earlier. I just got their newsletter. So I am not in the space of buying hospital curtains, but I'm on Cube Care's newsletter because she's been a certified WBE for many, many years. And so I get information about her. And the newsletter today was all about the impact of colors on our emotions. So red elicits this kind of emotion, green, blue, yellow. And it was a lovely newsletter because I got some interesting information out of it, but it wasn't a sales pitch. It was just, know your industry, know your patients in her instance, and keep in mind as you're looking at designs, as you're looking at in her instance, the curtains, do you have the right colors? Right. So I think that it's a really good example, to your point, Carmen, of observing and looking at industry trends and then going beyond just the target. Because ultimately the hospital wants the patients to feel comfortable. They want the patients to be calm. They want the patients to react a certain way, right?
Yes.
So, but by sending newsletters to people who are in your industry or in ancillary industries and offering just general information, not always selling, it really makes an impact and makes a big difference. Okay, so let's talk next about connecting.
And that would be me. That's my assignment. So, and this was a good one for me because I am involved in so many different groups and organizations. One thing you want to do is look at how you're networking. How do you network? Are you networking with people who do what you do? If not, then you probably should. Don't think of them just as competitors. Think of them as people who are all in the same, I guess, kind of group that you're in. And I'll give you an example. I was an antique dealer for a long time. I had my family had an antique business. And so people would come into our store and they'd say, oh, I'm looking for a table that does this. And we'd say, well, we don't have that, but let me walk you down the street to this other company because I think this store has what you're looking for. And they'd say, wow, aren't they competitors? And we'd say, yeah, but if if you have a cluster of these kinds of businesses, it makes it a lot more easy for the customers to find you. So if you're in any kind of business where you can associate with people who are in your industry, that's a really good thing to do. And maybe you don't want to do it in your same geographical area, but go through WeBank and look up the people who also do what you do. Look through the database and find the people who do what you do and see if there's any way to partner. So that's one way of networking. Join the industry groups that are for your specific industry. You might think, I pretty much know everything that's going on in construction and I really don't have time to do that. But you never know who you're going to run into and what that's going to mean to you. Another thing is to look at networking outside of your industry. One great way of doing that is to join these executive leadership training kind of groups. One of the best things I think I ever did was join Leadership Orlando. We had 86 people in the group. They were people who were from all different, all different kinds of jobs. Now, there were only 4 of us in the room, in the class, who were entrepreneurs. The other 3 said, "Oh, I'm too busy running my business." And even though they had paid $4,000 or whatever it was to be in this class, they dropped out. I stuck it through. It was 9 months. It was 1 day a month for me to devote to learning more about my community and making good friends. And I have to tell you that the people who were in my class right now, one of them is the chief of staff to the mayor of the city. One of them is very high up at one of the hospitals. I mean, you and the other one is very high up at University of Central Florida. So it's really great to make friends with people who are going to continue to develop in their careers or their businesses the way you do. And then, you've got this great network already. And that's not just something local, but that's where you can start, is local. You can also do this on a national and international level. And we're always telling you guys about all the different kinds of groups you can join. Nancy does a lot of work with We Connect, which is the equivalent of WeBank, but on an international level. So they're in countries all over the world. Another one is Women Presidents Organization. Anyone who is a woman in business, bringing in more than $1 million a year in revenue, or 2 million if you're a manufacturer, you can join WPO and have friends all around the world. And I was for a long time a facilitator in Orlando for that group and got to meet friends that I have now in all these different countries. We still stay in touch. We have a great chat going on WhatsApp. So these are just really important ways to not only build a network of people who can help you with your business, but also people who can help you just cope with things. Look at all the stuff that we're coping with right now. Everyone's talking about mental health, and that's not by accident. Everyone around the world is suffering because we've all been cooped up and we've all been stressed, and so this is just a great way to connect. Those were my biggest things. I know that there are other people who like to connect through something like Business Network International, BNI. That's really good for people who are in sales and are trying to sell something, and they all kind of buy from each other and refer each other. And it's a real structured way of getting referrals. That's not necessarily, apropos in my business, but I certainly have met a lot of people who do that, and it's great. And they connect me with people and I connect them with people. So look around for ways of connecting that maybe are a little bit unexpected. Even taking a class in, some kind of QuickBooks or that kind of thing. You're going to meet people in there who are going to turn out to be people you can rely on in your network.
Beautiful. Thank you, Diane. And one of the things you mentioned reminded me that we have a very successful WBE. The group is called Answer Team. And what they do is it's a strategic alliance of staffing companies. So in order to compete with the very large staffing companies, they decided that they would invite smaller staffing companies to be part of this network. So now when they bid on a contract, they can say, yes, we can fill that contract. And the advantage of using us is that we know the local market because they have staffing companies that are in all of the different cities around the country. So, strategic alliances are a really, really great way of connecting with other WBEs. So if you've got a very large WBE in your sites, as we mentioned, don't look at it as competition, but as possible association and alliance. How about just approaching them to say, do you do business in Florida? Are you interested in doing business in Florida? I am, headquartered in Florida. We do similar kinds of businesses, and how about we create a strategic alliance? So that's a really good way and an easy way of connecting. And I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, the person will say, let me think about that. They're not going to blow you off right away and say, no, absolutely not. You're my competitor and I would never work with you. They're going to say, let me think about it. And who knows, you might be able to create some kind of a really good strategic alliance. And oh, by the way, our corporate sponsors and partners tell us that they want to work with WBEs that are in a strategic alliance. All right, as opposed to having 5 different vendors or 10 different vendors, they'd rather have one vendor who handles many different aspects of a project. Okay, so next let's talk about experimenting.
Yeah, so I have experimenting, and I wanted to review all of the innovation traits that we've talked about. We've talked about curiosity, association, observation, connecting, and then finally experimenting. And those words, when I put on my old teacher hat, since I used to be a teacher, 3rd grade teacher, it reminds me of the scientific method, which is observe, question, make a hypothesis, experiment, analyze, and then you have your conclusion. And so, running a business, you make these observations, you ask questions, you come up with a hypothesis of what something that might work, and then you ultimately will be experimenting. And there are several ways that business owners and people have experimented things. I mean, look at Edison. His famous quote is, I haven't failed. I simply found 10,000 ways that do not work. Okay. So I feel like what Steph said, if you're thinking about your why behind your business, that you believe in your mission, that the way you get to the end result is not going to necessarily be the way you think you get there. You don't know how you may end up there. When we look at Jeff Bezos and Amazon, it started off as, I was buying college books online from that. And now look at it, they're selling everything more and more than just books, toys, and it grew from toys to TVs and everything on Amazon. So don't be afraid, to try something new and be vulnerable and be authentic. Think about your reason why you have your business in your company and experiment on different things. I know that like Dell, for instance, she is experimenting, with opening up a new hub in Orlando. That's awesome and that's amazing. Congratulations to Dell. And for me, with my business journey, I think that finding your why is going to be your light. It's going to guide you, through everything. And if, you know, a marketing tactic doesn't work, well, hey, you're going to just try something else and then try something else. And so I think that is pretty much sums up experimenting. It says here, it's a good thing to fail forward and to fail fast.
Great. Thank you, Joanna. And that reminds me of a phrase by Coach Karen Salmonson, who says, she's the one who coined the phrase, if you've heard it, blessings. It's blessings in the lessons are blessings, right? And that goes to the thing about failing forward and failing fast. Is every time you try something and it doesn't work out, rather than beat yourself up over the fact that it didn't work out, just take a step back and look at it and say, okay, what did I learn out of this? Did I learn that that's not really my target market, right? I thought it was, but we tried and we didn't get the response we wanted. I also learned, maybe you got some feedback from the target market, and you should always go back. If something doesn't work for you, go back and ask for feedback. People like to give feedback, right? So go back and say, okay, was it the color? Was it the size? Did it take too long to get there? Go back and ask for the feedback. So always look for the blessing in the lesson, right? And sometimes we have a hard time because we put so much time and energy into a project that we figure, okay, I just got to put a little more time, a little more energy, and, you know, a little more money into this project. So when we work with business owners who are thinking strategically, we always do a timeline, right? Because you have to have some SMART goals. They have to be measurable, and they have to be relevant, right? So are you, you know, in 6 months, if you're starting something new, it's a good idea to revisit in 6 months where you are. So at the beginning of the project, you say, in 6 months, I will have achieved A, B, or C. And then in 6 months, take a hard break and look at your goals. And did you achieve those things? And at that point, decide, do I still want to invest more money? Because there's nothing worse than trying to keep something alive because you've already invested $50,000 and you think, okay, I just need to invest another 5,000 and it'll work. And that 5,000 turns into 10, which turns into 20, which turns into 50. And before you know it, you've invested $100,000 into something that might not have been the right way to go. Okay, so I really, as I said, I really like this book, The Innovators DNA. There's another book that's an oldie but a goldie. It's called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, and he has these 5 characteristics and 2 others. One has to do with learning things through your senses. And it kind of goes back to what Steph said about stepping outside and, you know, grounding yourself by actually putting your feet in the soil, but also observing through your senses. Sometimes it's a good idea to just close your eyes and listen to the sounds around you, right? Or to look at things from different perspectives. And then his 7th category has to do with exercise. And Steph started out by saying, you know, how important exercise is to her. And I'm right with you, Steph. This morning when I got out of bed, I thought I've got to get that on that COVID vaccine list. And so I sat in front of my computer trying to get an appointment for a half an hour. And that half an hour was the time that I normally do my exercise in. And after a frustrating half an hour, and then, you know, I opened up my email, and of course it turned into an hour later. I'm still answering emails like happens to all of us. You know, I took a break and I said, you know what, I'm going out for, I don't run because I can't run, but I do a fast walk. So I said, I'm going out for my fast walk. And it was, you know, 9:30 when I'm usually out there by 7. So I got to see a whole bunch of different people that I don't normally see. I met some new dogs in my neighborhood. So it was a good thing for me to get out. And sometimes we have to give ourselves that grace, right? Is to say, okay, it didn't happen at 7 like it usually happens, but okay, I can still fit this in, right? Because exercise is an important part of who we are and what we do. And if you're not exercising, I really, really encourage you to get out there and walk or just move and dance in your office. There are all sorts of studies about how sitting is like the new smoking. I don't know if you've all have seen those studies, where when we sit for X amount of hours, our blood pools in areas that it should not be pooling, right? And it then affects our joints, it then affects our mobility. And so we really have to take care to move around. And when you move around, that's when the ideas start coming, because you have a clear head. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that. Just again, it's part of, having a little one, but there is something, and I want to encourage you guys. I know everybody out there has a favorite song. I know you all do. The song that comes on and you sing it no matter where you are. I can't imagine anybody doesn't. I want to challenge you guys, put it on your phone. And like Nancy said, if you have a break between, turn that thing on, because let me tell you, if it's your most favorite song, there is no way you will not get up and dance around your office a little bit. So that's my challenge I'm going to put out to get you moving. And it's the same thing I do. I have a couple now, but if I get a break, or maybe someone cancels a call or whatever, I try to get up and I put that song on, and I know I have to get up and move around. So, movement is big, and it's so funny too what that does for you, especially if you're frustrated with maybe an email or a phone call or something isn't going right that day. There is nothing like putting on your favorite song.
Just need a break.
Right. And if you can't think of a favorite song, somebody put in the chat, please, that song Happy. Is it Will Ferrell? I can't remember.
Yeah, Pharrell. Yeah.
Yes. So if you can't think of a song to move around to, just listen to that, and I guarantee you your foot is going to start tapping, and you'll start feeling really, really good.
Yeah. So let's just check. I don't think I see any questions. Another thing I just would love to ask, because I think it's really good when we be a little bit vulnerable for the rest of our audience, guys, is how many people here have failed at anything? Right? We can all admit it. And I think that's the important thing, is that it's so interesting, because we talk about, being taught about failure, and that it's okay, and how we think about it. And again, this idea of it's not really a failure, it's a lesson, it's a learning. So I wanted to ask that, because everybody's done it. There's not a person in the world who has been 100% perfect at anything. And that's the beauty in it. And I have to admit, at this lovely point in my life, I'm about to have a birthday here in 2 weeks, guys. And one of the things I've learned to do is even have a good little laugh about when I do things that I didn't learn, that didn't work out exactly like I wanted. And, maybe frustrated at the time, but I'm learning to just say, you know what? It's one of those moments in life, and I'm alive and I got to have it. So let's move forward.
It's true.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got, I don't know if anybody has any last minute before we wrap up. We got 5 minutes and a couple more things to tell everybody. Okay. Perfect.
Oh, and actually, Delinda has put something in the chat, which I think is really, really key. She says, I make sure that my employees know it's okay to fail. And that is really key to success, right? To you being vulnerable and saying, we tried this, it was my idea and it didn't work out, but also allowing your employees to try things and letting them know, ensuring them that they're not going to get fired because they tried something new that didn't work out, right? That's very, very, very good idea, and good suggestion. Thank you, Dell.
Well, and that's the only way to innovate, to be perfectly honest, right? If you have a fear of failure, then innovation isn't going to happen. and I will tell you, yeah, that's wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much to the team for sharing today. Well, thank you guys so much. We're so lucky that we have you
Yeah.
as part of our community and our tribe, and we appreciate you guys so very much. And thank you for spending an hour with us every Wednesday. We just love it and look forward to it. So with that, you guys go out, have a fabulous day. Go walk in the grass today. Dance to your favorite song and have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you next week.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.